All right, great. Hey, listen, with us today, we got Celeste and Marcus. Hey, guys, say hi.
Hi.
And today we're going to actually talk about an interesting subject. It's called misleading graphs. So, Celeste, why don't you go ahead and start reading what it says on
Who?
right here on top where it says 5.
No, I know, but who? You didn't say whose name.
This is Celeste.
Oh. Five ways writers use misleading graphs to manipulate you.
Yeah,
Infographic.
yeah, 5 ways, right? All right, and why don't you go ahead and read what it says right here? It says, in this post,
Okay. In this post-truth era, graphs are being used to school data and spin narrative like never before, especially with the velocity at which some of these topics spread across social media.
yes, okay, let me stop you there. Marcus, is this true?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Because people are, because in politics, they only want to show their view and not
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah, well, you got to realize that a lot of times the people that are more extreme are more vocal. And so it's normally and this is one of the things that happens. So a lot of times the resource, social media is leverage. So they have the power then to capture more of what they want you to kind of have in mind. Okay. So Marcus, read the next paragraph right here. It says all it takes.
All it takes is a single graph from a less than reputable source blasted out to the list of followers to spread a false narrative around the world.
Yeah, keep on reading.
We have already seen this happen many times during the COVID response, which is why we added a new section featuring a few of those misleading graphs.
Yeah.
Now, the data doesn't even have to be bad. It could just be presented in a misleading way. I mean, there's a whole Wikipedia page, Reddit community, and hundreds of articles about how graphs can be used to misinform readers.
Yeah. Okay. And all for what purpose?
To get their view across.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's it. Keep on reading.
Now, I can't make these data schooling creators stop, but I can help you spot these misleading graphs when they crop up. I've included examples of how to graph the data properly, also following data visualization, best practices, blah, 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 designers, visualization, data visualization, best practices.
Just go ahead and read. Ensures that your graphs are always clear and understandable. Okay. So here is, Marcus, read this part right here. This is one of the ways that they mislead you. Read this.
Misleading.
No.
Starting the vertical axis at 50 makes...
Marcus, start with the top part where it says.
Omitting the baseline. In most cases, the baseline for a graph is 0, but writers can screw how data is perceived by making the baseline a different number. This is known as a truncated graph.
Good. All right, so Marcus, read this part right here.
So misleading. Starting the vertical axis of 50 makes a small difference between groups seem massive. Group A looks much larger than groups B and C.
Yeah.
Accurate. Starting the vertical axis at 0 offers the most accurate depiction of the data. The difference between the groups does not seem as dramatic.
Yeah, so Celeste, does this seem like it's being misleading from left to right?
Yes.
Yeah, why?
Because on the left side, you can see that A group has a lot more people, while group B and group C don't. They're low. While on the other graph, it's 60%, 54%, and 54%.
Yeah, like if I was gonna make like a little thing, you notice that? And then look at this one, this is more even. So this is one of the things they did. They started the best baseline at 50 so it could look so much more different. So it's very important that you're able to not take things at face value. It's like, you know, when you hear somebody say something on the internet, is everything said on the internet true?
No.
No, you know that, right? Now, hey, listen, very important. Why do we have locks on our doors?
So that no one can get in or
Yes.
break in.
Yes, absolutely. So, should you have a lock in your mind?
Yes.
Yes, you need to be careful what you let inside your mind. Just like you have locks on your doors, you need to have locks in your mind to not let everything just come into your house. Okay, there's certain things you don't want. They're out there, but you don't want them being you with you. Make sense? All right. Now let's go ahead and Celeste, why don't you read this? Oh, hold on a second, still writing. I gotta get back to the mouse. And in this case, oh, hold on. Back up. Go ahead, Celeste, and read the second. What it says up there.
Manipulating the y-axis.
Yes. Manipulating the.
Expanding or wait.
Well, actually, Celeste, let me do this. Let me switch over to the smart file because I think on there it's going to be easier for me to write. So let me open that one up. There you go. So it's all the same stuff, but just easier for me to work with. Okay, so like right here.
Okay.
Now this one was what?
That you're going too far to ahead.
No, well, remember how we said this was omitting the baseline? Now this one's manipulating the y-axis. This is the next one we're doing, number 2. Okay, we're gonna work on manipulating the y-axis. All right, so go ahead, Celeste, read what it says here.
Expanding or compressing the scale on a graph can make changes in data seem more or less significant than they actually are.
Okay, good. So go ahead and read where it says misleading.
Misleading. The scale is disproportionate to the data, making the change over time seem small.
Now read over.
Accurate. The scale is proportionate to the data, showing a greater change over time.
Yeah. So you notice how one of them seems insignificant while the other one does seem like there's more things happening? Yeah, so this is what happens at some times too when they show you graphs. Keep an eye out for this. What are they mislabeling? Okay, so like in this case, expanding or compressing. So, oh, hold on, I'm using black on black. It's not good. Expanding or compressing the scale of a graph can make changes in data seem less significant than they actually are.
But Dad, one thing about this that confuses me is that you could swap these.
Mm-hmm.
You can. That's why. It's going to be what do you want the other person to believe? Is it more or less? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it really depends on what you want the other person to perceive. Remember, perception is reality in some cases. The way you think about things is the way things are. Okay, so, and the way I could prove that to you is think about when you see something, how many things are your eyes actually capturing? How many things are available, actually, first of all, from your eyes when you see out? Like, can you give me a number? When you look at something, how many things is your eyes capturing?
Billions.
Yeah, right? But how many things are you actually thinking about? What's the maximum number of things you think about?
1.
Yeah, maybe 7 in your head at one time. Okay, so the view of the world, even though you could, you know, your eyes are capturing billions, your reality is really the one you search for, the one you see. That's you. Okay, so this is the same thing with what you present. All right, so now, okay, Marcus, why don't you read this next one?
Cherry picking data. Winters may only Writers may only include certain data points on their graph to reinforce their narratives. This can create a false impression of data.
Yeah. So you see the misleading and the one that's accurate. Why is the one on the left misleading?
Wait, can you? I don't know.
Well, look, you see how they start in May?
Yeah.
You see how they start in May and in August? Well, that's like May of 2020 was, it was maybe about here. So they're just showing it going up. Does it make sense?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that's the reason why. Okay. All right, good. Let's go ahead and it gives you right here on top. All right, Celeste, go ahead and read this next one.
Using the wrong graph. The type of graph you use should depend on the type of data you want to visualize. Using the wrong type of graph can skew the data. Writers will sometimes use the wrong type of graph on purpose.
Yeah. So what do you notice? Misleading?
Because
Like this pie chart. What's wrong with this pie chart? Why is it inappropriate for me to use a pie chart in this case? Let me ask
Because
you.
it doesn't. Well, because the pie chart is supposed to add up to 100%, and that goes way over 100.
Yes, definitely, exactly, right? So notice how the one on the left is way more than 100%. So there's certain things that should be used better, like in this case, accurate, like a bar graph. But in this, it makes it seem like the way you wanted to perceive it.
Wait, then, what?
So whenever you make a pie, it always has to end up to 100%.
It should. Yeah, that's how pie charts should be created, where they add up to 100%. In this case, it's trying to show more like a proportion of what things are. Right? Okay. Now let's go ahead and fifth one, going against conventions. So who read last? Okay, so Marcus, you're up.
But Daddy, what's a convention?
That means like things are just normal. So go
I
ahead.
can't see the text, Dad.
Okay, I'll read it. It says, misleading. Normally, darker shades are associated with density on a map, but here darks are used to depict lower population density. This graph can confuse and mislead readers who expect dark to represent higher population density. So they're using it for the opposite effect. And it says right here, this map follows the convention of using lighter shades for lighter density and darker shades for higher density. Okay, so it kind of gives you the perspective of one or the other. Does it make sense? Like when things are darker, it's like cell phone coverage. You want to see how much 5G data you have? The darker it looks, the more coverage you're supposed to have there. That's the impression. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I will have to pull up a 5G data map to kind of show you. Watch. I probably could do it on here pretty quickly. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull one up and show it to you. 5G data map. Why don't we do it for AT&T? Let me share my screen with you. And you're gonna see it right now. Right here. So you see how it shows? Oh, actually, no, they're showing lighter for, but this is the same concept basically, same idea.
Mhm.
Okay, that basically you're using shades to interpret where it's at. So let's go back to our thing. All right, so now let's go ahead and do our next one. Okay, so I think that this is more of a summary of what we were doing. Actually, no, it just shows you more examples of what they are. So in this case, yeah, it's just gonna be more examples of what everything is. Okay, so from here, one of the things I would love for you to do is go ahead and revert back and make sure you copy all the ones we did as far as, let me go back, all the ones we came up with, which were these over here. So everything about the wrong graph, density, all those. That's kind of like everything I want you to go ahead and copy down for your notes. So you can make sure. Now, Celeste and Marcus, what's the biggest thing you learned about today that was important?
The
Yeah.
internet lies in many different ways.
Well, no,
Trust no one and no thing.
no. But if anything, what is this supposed to enlighten you about when we talk about these things?
I learned that you
To
shouldn't
do
always
your own research.
Yeah, sorry, Celeste, can you continue?
that you shouldn't always believe what the internet says, like they teach us.
Yeah, or anybody. If anything, you always need to do your own research and see, okay, and especially when they show you things, you got to look at them and say, you know what, let's look at this, and is it really what it's meaning to say? You know, is this accurate? Because there's a lot of good things that are accurate, and you should really pay attention to them. But it's important you'll be able to recognize this. Okay. All right, good. And Celeste, you wanted to say something else?
Mm-mm.
Okay, good. All right. Hey, kids, thank you so much. Everybody go ahead and say bye to everybody.
Bye.
Bye.